NBC's coverage of the Tropicana 400 is brought to you by Dodge. You can take life as it comes, or you can grab life by the horns. Dodge. By Stacker 2, the world's strongest fat burner. Burn fat, crush cravings, and supercharge your energy. By Walmart. Always low prices. Always. And by Sprint. Experience the clear alternative to cellular today.
Aerial views today courtesy of the U.S. Army, an Army of One. As we look at the Chicagoland Speedway, a 1.5-mile track today hosting the Tropicana 400. At the moment, we've got different pit stop schedules going on. Mark Martin pitted at lap 18 along with a series of drivers. They are still out there on the track, while many of the early leaders of the race just came onto pit road for fuel. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was the race leader at the time of his stop. He's worked his way back up to 10th spot now, but he is 19 seconds behind this car, Mark Martin. Yesterday, the NASCAR Busch Series ran the Tropicana Twister 300 here at Chicagoland. First Busch Series win for Johnny Sauter.
And it was a very popular win in the grandstands. He grew up about 150 miles from here.
Up in Necedah, Wisconsin. And that series of green flag pit stops continues with Jeff Green on the pit lane. Dave?
Who is, by the way, a Richard Childress Racing entry as well in the Winston Cup Series. He's going to put a round of wedge in the car, a little bit tight, according to crew chief Todd Berrier. They're also going to change 4 tires. A little bit of left rear damage to Jeff Green. It is a contact sport out there, guys, isn't it?
Yeah, that was from the Ward Burton spin back at lap 4.
There's also damage to the left front fender on the 30 car. So it looks like an accordion effect. He got in the back of someone, backed off, and Ward got...
Oh, Terry Labonte is spinning, coming onto pit road. Michael Waltrip missed it. Terry did too. No caution.
Is he stalled or no?
Well, that's what they're waiting to find out. There he goes. And will stay under green.
And a lot of guys are happy about that because half the field would have went down a lap.
Yeah,
that yellow would have came out right there.
Yeah, if the caution comes out before the rest of the lead cars pit, some guys are going to be in trouble.
And Jim Long told me this morning if this became a fuel mileage race that Terry Labonte would be awfully good. Unfortunately, that spin on pit road took away the advantage that he had. Spin coming on to pit road.
Matt?
Well, this will be a 4-tire change for Terry Labonte. They made a significant wedge adjustment. He says his car was loose.
Jerry Nadeau is in. Also, Kenny Wallace is in for a pit stop, waiting on Hutch Strickland. He's the second place car. Here he comes onto the pit lane. Also got Jeff Burton, who has not stopped yet, and he is on the pit road now. So Mark Martin in that 6 car is the race leader. And looks like he's out of fuel.
I think he's out of fuel.
Oh, it's going to cost him a lot of ground. While we wait for Mark to get back around to the pit lane, let's cover some more stops. Bill?
Tires to be smooth.
Hutch Strickland on pit road. It's a 4-tire stop. Fuel going in. He's about 3 pit stalls down from Mark Martin. His crew was on the wall. Martin's crew was waiting for him about another 6 laps. Now it's a crawl down pit road for Mark Martin. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment because he's been very, very tight. But the goal here is going to make sure that that car does refire, which it does, and Mark will be able to get off of pit road. Around to the left side. Again, it's 4 tires and fuel, air pressure adjustment because the car has been so tight. Mark stopped on lap 18. This is lap 84. He's on his way. That cost him, though.
And what you got to be careful there is when you come into the pits with no engine, you have no way to gauge what your pit road speed is. So a lot of guys get hammered cutting down pit lane when they run out of gas because they don't know how fast they're going.
After the cycle of pit stops, Tony Stewart. The big orange Home Depot car is out in front. He leads Dale Jarrett by 2.5 seconds. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is up to 3rd. Bill Elliott 4th. And the early leader of the race, Ryan Newman, now runs 5th. Rest of the top 10, Sterling Marlin, Joe Nemechek, Jeff Gordon, Elliott Sadler, and Kurt Busch. Under green at lap 85. You're watching NASCAR on NBC.
Well, I know which way to go from here. I'll take the low road 'cause I know it'll take me home.
Welcome back to the Tropicana 400, and appropriately enough, it's an orange car that is leading this race. Tony Stewart in a Pontiac with Dale Jarrett, Dale Earnhardt Jr., the 9 car of Bill Elliott, and pole sitter Ryan Newman. Outstanding work in the pits for the 20 car, and it's Tony Stewart that is really hustling his car around the racetrack, BP. He's got his foot to the floor, doesn't he?
He really does, and he's running terrific laps. And after all, he's been out there about 30, a little over 30 laps on this set of tires and still running very, very fast.
Yeah, last time by, Tony Stewart ran a 31.25 second lap. Dale Jarrett, the second place car, ran a 31.38 second lap. And Dale Earnhardt Jr., the third place car, a 31.41 second lap. So he's got third place by 2/10, and second place by a 1/10 a lap.
And when these guys hit it, you know, I remember him running really good at Michigan because he gets his car to work down on the bottom. There's a lot of racetracks, Homestead, they work their cars really good on the bottom. And boy, when they hit the setup, Tony is hard to beat on these racetracks. Now another car is the 25 car, Joe Nemechek. I've been watching him, and his car's been working exceptionally good on the bottom. He's been running some good laps as well.
That was a pass for 6th place there with Nemechek moving up. Todd Bodine using that high lane. Wally, you said the high lane was there today.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. And it seems to be the general consensus of everybody that the more years of wear that get put on this pavement, the better the racing we'll see here. The fresher pavement just grips too good almost. There's too much grip in it for side-by-side racing.
Well, it's better this year than it was last year, and it'll be better next year than it is this year. Sterling Marlin, he didn't like to be passed by Nemechek, so he's going to decide to pass him back.
Well, I think Joe had to maybe check up. We'll keep an eye on this. I think Joe had to check up a little bit on Stuart Kirby, who was coming into pit lane, and that's why Sterling got such a run, and here comes Joe right back.
There you go.
I talked to Ken Howes, the team manager on that 25 car this morning, and he said, boy, do we need a good run. Just a good run to get everybody pumped up and get to a good run will be a moral victory for us if we could do it. And today, he's getting it.
Joe Nemechek in that wicked multi-car crash at Daytona last week where he and Brett Bodine took by far the worst shots. I talked to him this morning at the drivers meeting, asked him how he was feeling, if he was good to go, and he said, you know, the first couple days were really tough, but then what really got me late in the week wasn't the sore from the accident. He said I caught a cold from one of my children, and that knocked me for a loop. Marty?
Yeah, and they really do need a shot in the arm. Benny, you're exactly right. I talked to Randy Dorton, who's kind of the head engine builder and one of the higher-ups at Hendrick Motorsports. He said, you know, these guys have a great car. Clearly, it has a chance to finish in the top 5, but they don't need to set the world on fire this weekend. They just need a solid run. They nearly missed the race at Daytona. They had the big accident at Daytona. They just want a solid finish to prove they belong in the top 10 in Winston Cup.
We saw Mark Martin run out of gas coasting down the backstretch earlier, said it would cost him. How much has it cost him? A lap to the race leader.
But right now he's in 24th position, and you're right, 1 lap down to Tony Stewart.
So Mark's got a hole to dig out of here. And again, his rival for the championship, Mark, one of those top 5 in points. Sterling Marlin runs in 7th, right among the leaders. Tony Stewart is out in front with Dale Jarrett, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Bill Elliott, and Ryan Newman making up the rest of the top 5. You're watching NASCAR on NBC. Tony Stewart is the leader of the Tropicana 400 for the NASCAR Winston Cup Series here at Chicagoland Speedway. He's got his hands full right now, not with the second place car, but with some guys who don't want to get lapped.
We just had a big one, almost had a big one going in turn 3 a moment ago as Robbie Gordon made contact with a 19 car, Jeremy Mayfield. But everything is under control now as Robbie Gordon is under Jeremy Mayfield's car, goes by him, and here comes Tony Stewart.
Mayfield and Gordon running 19th and 20th, trying to stay as the last cars on the lead lap. Rusty Wallace has just gone a lap down to the leader. Kyle Petty, Jeff Green, they've also gone a lap down. Let's take a look at what we were talking about a minute ago. This was up in turn 3 as Tony Stewart ran up on the back of this whole pack of cars. Watch this.
On board with Robbie Gordon. He drives on the inside of Jeremy. Oh, catch him in the left rear. Jeremy goes up the hill, gets it back under control.
Good save, Jeremy.
Boy.
And Tony is running right behind Robbie Gordon when that happens.
That doesn't look like much, but he was about 175 mile an hour sideways there.
Just past 150 miles in the event now. And Stewart's lead on Dale Jarrett is 1.4 seconds. With Dale Earnhardt Jr. 4 seconds back in third, Bill Elliott 7 seconds back in fourth, and Ryan Newman an even 10 seconds back in fifth. 2 caution flags in the race so far. Ward Burton spun down the front stretch at lap 5. He's back in the garage area getting repairs, and debris on the racetrack from Ward Burton's car after his first set of repairs brought out the caution at lap 18. 7 lead changes so far. Ryan Newman led the first 56 laps. Dale Earnhardt Jr. went out in front, and then a series of green flag pit stops shuffled things around until Tony Stewart took command at lap 84.
There's our pole sitter Ryan Newman as he tries to go by the 23 car of Hut Strickland, and he's been behind him for several laps. Cannot get by, and Joe Nemechek has driven up on the back of Ryan Newman.
Here are our lows, improvers, and snoozers through the first part of the race. Look at the advance for Kurt Busch. 30 spots.
Meanwhile,
guys who are struggling.
The Bodine boys, Brett and Todd and Ward Burton in the garage area. Ryan Newman he's gotten behind the 23 car. He picked up that aero push and just cannot get by. Has been following him for several laps.
But Joe seems to get a pretty good run on him. He just seems like he runs out of steam from the middle of the racetrack down into the corner. It looks like that Ryan's got a little bit more motor. But see right here, Joe's car's working real good. He gets up underneath them. Then it's a drag race down the straightaway. Problem is Ryan, well, this time he's going to give it to Joe.
He lifted off the gas.
Yep.
Here he let him go.
Just give it to him.
Many are talking about aero push.
And the dreaded words that we hate to talk about in this business. But the cars have become very, very aerodynamic on the nose of the car, and you depend on air to push the car down for downforce to make the car grip the racetrack. When you pull up behind someone and you can't get all that air on the nose, then the car just does not want to turn. And the term that they use is an aerodynamic push or aero push.
I mentioned Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Ryan Newman kind of were the 2 tag teaming up the front of the pack for most of the early laps. Jr. led the race from lap 57 to 64. Now he's kind of mired back in third. He's 4 seconds behind the leader, Tony Stewart. Here's what he had to say to his crew about his car's performance just a moment ago.
It's like rolled over on the right front loose when I start. That's also getting the left front up on the corner of the tire. How it rolls over and kind of the left front ain't really trying to work. If it was kind of flatter going out in the corner and the center, it might work the left front better, curve better in the center, not be so loose in.
Huh? No, it sounds like is that damage there on the left front?
I think it's just the way they're making those fenders. I saw that a fender coming down pit road a moment ago, and I thought it was damaged, but I really think that's now the way that they're making these fenders to get downforce on that left front.
Little optical illusion there.
What he's explaining is the car seems like, if I heard him right, BP, the car seems like it's rolling a little bit, and when it rolls over on the right side, it makes the left front tire light, so to speak. It's not getting into the racetrack, getting traction. How about it, Marty?
And guys, remember, that's the same thing he said in half hour yesterday. He was having that same problem with just rolling too much for him. It's not necessarily coil binding, which is when the springs kind of coil up together, but it just kind of rolls too much for him. And he was having that same problem, especially in 3 and 4. And remember, that big bump is over in 3 and 4, and that's what was giving the 8 car problems yesterday.
Now, if that's doing that right now when he's by himself, it's got to get a lot worse when he gets around other cars. So if he gets in traffic, he could have his hands full.
Talked about Dale Jr. kind of struggling over the last couple of months. He has only led 15 laps in all the races in the last 2 months. Expect more out of that, more than that out of Jr. He expects more than that out of himself. Right now he's behind Tony Stewart, who is leading the Tropicana 400. Lap 113 of 267 are complete. You're watching NASCAR on NBC.